all it is going to your brother on the first step. You heard my sister say, hey, you billed me $49 on my bill this month. You did it again that month. Why don't you knock it up and give me my money back? And here's one we did for another guy named Terry.
That page and this one after. And then
here's the notice private internet.
The back side of it.
On or about January 2000, I was enticed by yourself to invest funds in excess of $200,000 in various business ventures, owned, controlled, and/or controlled indirectly by you. The investments you stated varied from investments in companies called this. See attached exhibits. Said money investments were directed to various accounts for various purposes, all purported to raise money to help with the boat company, Meadowcraft Marine, pay off the mortgage on my home in the approximate amount of $1 million. Listed below are some of the amounts and dates said funds were invested or directed by you. Then there's a whole page on those. And then there was a third page that said something, just another short paragraph. Blah, 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 you didn't do it. Therefore, it seems to me you committed fraud. So either give me my money back or it is agreed you committed fraud and you owe me $622,000, triple amount. Of course, they ignored it each time. Of course, on the last one of them, they refused it. He said, now what do we do? It was on the last step onto one of the parties.
You mean refused to receive the mail?
Yeah, they knew it was come another certified mail or they wouldn't go pick it up. He said, now what do we do? I said, it's beautiful. What's refusal?
It's one of the doors.
Acceptance.
It's agreement. Yeah. Acceptance. That's what they do. That's what they do to uncivil people.
Put that on your affidavit or something?
Don't have to. It's the law.
I was talking to Juanita about mailing presentments to people, and with certified mailing, there's a checkbox where you can say, I'd like the party or their authorized agent only to pick it up, not someone else. And
it's actually you can check the box. It's just directly that one person.
So. Oh, is that what it says?
Yeah, I don't think I have one, but I might have a card with me. But anyway, go on.
But there was some concern. Well, we don't want to check that because they might refuse it. But I was thinking, refusing.
I don't want to check it because they might be out or something and they won't get it. So I just, because notice to the agents, notice to the principal.
Yeah,
if it got delivered there, that's why I just leave it blank. I don't want to have any specific one person pick it up.
I thought it said authorized agent or principal.
Somebody have a green mail card for certified mailers with them by any chance?
I don't have a green card.
Or just the return card?
I don't have the return card. I just have.
Or a copy of the return card?
No, I only have the original certificate.
Just a little receipt.
Yeah.
No, on the green card, the return card.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, please rest assured, the government loves it when you stand up. Now, they may not like a in-your-face Robert Menard approach, which is not very civil. I like his message, though. I like the guy. He's saying the right things. But I think we can do it with humbleness and love and some honor. Rest assured, you go to court, you can say the right things, and if you don't do it in honor, you might not be getting your remedy. Because you have to merit the reward, right? Mm-hmm. So I said your paperwork don't have to be exact. Don't even have to be correct. I said it was correct. Somebody saying it isn't? Kind of interesting.
And you have to play the game with sportsmanlike conduct.
Yes. Do you merit a reward? Have by conduct a claim to. The judge will decide whether your conduct warrants your fulfilling your claim. You have to go low to get high. You have to be humble. Don't you love? God told you, love your brother and I'll give you everything, including remedy for all your sins. It's so perfect. A government will not take your kids. All they got's a birth certificate. Who's it identify? Well, they took my baby's footprint, or that's my footprint. It's not your footprint. You don't have a footprint, do you? You're a spirit. How could you have a footprint? Now, it might be a footprint of this foot when it was a lot smaller. Might not have been. Prove it. You say it is, I say it ain't. Can you prove it? Yes.
Can they not just seize the vessel though? Still?
You know, it's really interesting. Can they seize the vessel? That's when I first got out in May of 2007, when I screwed up and offended them. The marshal. Now, when I'd gone to the halfway house, I gave a picture and all of that kind of stuff because I wasn't real tuned up on that, the seriousness of it. But I wasn't given a bunch of grief about it. So I gave a picture, and some 60 days later, 90 days later, I'm in an altercation with him. Come to my office, the marshals just grabbed the vessel. They didn't identify themselves, nothing, wouldn't identify, just grabbed the vessel. Took me down to Arpaio's jail. And that's where the games began. I had a chance, I screwed it up by shaking that guy's hand and doing one other mistake. Otherwise, I felt they would have had to let me go. I didn't keep from violating rights and everything else, taking you down there. So they made an honest mistake and grabbed the wrong vessel. They had a picture of it. They could say that. What are you going to do? Come on, man. I was out of line. I ignored the probation's letter and didn't attend the meeting when I said I would. Call back and say, if you want to talk to me, put it in writing. I already tried in writing. Of course, the halfway house called and said, come on now, we want to see you. I went down. They said, well, we think we're going to put you back in prison. And I verbally sparred with them. They couldn't do anything. And I walked out and left. And they called over to the office where I was at, picked up, and the guy got on the phone. I beat him again. Then the head security guard called, you got 24 hours to be back here. Click. So he wouldn't talk to me. And so the next day, just before 24 hours was up, 2 marshals just came, marched in, grabbed me, and took me away. Wouldn't say anything, wouldn't talk, nothing. And it was a great experience because I learned so much when I went to the jail and our piles and watching them do, and those guys and shaking hands. It was just too good. All my experiences seemed to be just so for my good. Kind of like Romans 8:28, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God. Right? So, what would you pay for all those experiences? The average guy can't deal with it. Oh, God, jail again? Yeah, let's see what you got. I don't want to be there, believe it. But, it just seemed like so much good come from it every time. That's why I got the attitude I have of it. And there were times like, when is it over? It's never over. It was a classic one getting out of MCC San Diego. Remember that I defeated the 2 cases of supervised release, but I got a couple of contempt charges I'm doing 10 months over. So while I'm in there, the whole 10 months, they're haranguing me for a picture and fingerprints. And I won't give it to them. And about 8 days before I left, the head unit guy calls me in. And he says, you have to give a picture. And you have to do supervised release. And you have to pay some money on this $4.8 million. Just pay $5, anything. And I had $600 in my commissary account that friends had put on my books, but I couldn't spend it because I was on restriction. So he says, just pay $2, $5, anything. I said, why would I want to do that? He says, I have a court order. What are you going to say to that? I says, well, let me see it. Says he's got a court order. Let's see it. So he goes rummages through all this stuff. This is what they call a computation data sheet made up by the unit team. It says how much time you got left, supervised release, or all sorts of things. I know what it is. Is this a court order?
You agree it is?
There's a real important concept. Huge. In common parlance, is synonymous with going to trial. In common parlance, going to court is synonymous with going to trial. This is huge. The IRS sends you letters, and after about 3 letters and you've ignored them, you have your bank account levied, or your home has a notice of lien on it and you lose it eventually, right? Do you all agree with that? That's what happens in America. You were in court with the IRS. But in common parlance, common talk, people think when you're in court means going down where you're actually in trial, attesting the public side, you see? Does that make sense to each of you? When you're doing your administrative proceeding with somebody, you're really in court. So when the Chase Bank or a Visa card group sends you a bill and you send it back and they send you haven't paid it and you conditionally accept and they send something else and you send back again, there's your court record. When you eventually get called into a public court, let's call it, a trial area where there's a black robe judge or something, that's going to be a trial. And if you got your record and it goes in there, what can be put into an appellate court? Nothing but what was in the lower court, right? The record in the lower court's all that can be put into an appellate court. You can't introduce new evidence and stuff. So when an IRS has sent you a bunch of things non-file, you could be subject to a criminal prosecution for willful failure to file. You ignore those letters and then you get an indictment. Anything you say subsequently, they got a private record that says you're guilty. You willfully failed to file, don't they? You're toast. Because that when you go to that court, that's your first appellate court. That's your first appeals court. And the only thing that can be seen in there is the record in the lower court, your administrative record. It's kind of a hard, but it's really, really important you know that.
And that's like the same thing if you get pulled over for speeding. That's your trial. When you go to traffic court later, that's an appeal.
That's all it is. If you let too much time, you don't settle that ticket. That was an offer, wasn't it? You got to set it off, settle it, and close it. Then you come in and you say, hasn't the matter been settled and closed?
But on the appeal, if you let go of if you waive your previous judgment in your favor, then
they're going to get you to try and move that contract. That's a fact. Because the only people that are really going to get this and understanding this is people that really want to be in harmony with their brother. There'll probably be a few people who want to do it to get over. But gal, if you're bright enough to learn this, you're bright enough to say, I don't have to try and get over. This is like manna from heaven. This is the best. I get to be in harmony with a 900-pound gorilla. I don't want to be at war with this government. I'm outgunned, outclassed, outthought, outmanned, out everything. It was stupid on my forehead? I don't think so.
Amen, peace.
And if you think they're not servants of God, I got news for you. Are they thinking they're that? Nah. But God has a very good way of getting everything done He wants done. Therefore, if what I'm telling you is right, then you could be happy that there's remedy. They're going to love you. They're not going to take your kids. They can't if they wanted to. They're yours. But I'm not in there answering questions. I'm going to make a claim. And you'll know how to make a claim. A complaint is not a claim. Think about what the girl in the divorce with our friend in the divorce deal. She wanted an increase in the money that she was getting monthly. So she put in a complaint with the court. I'm not getting enough. Give me some more. And what did that guy do? Instead of saying, hey, I conditionally accept your offer to hear it again upon proof of claim that the record attached herewith, which is accepted as a binding contract, hasn't already settled that matter. And then when you come in, well, what's the record and pleading say, Judge? Well, look, we've got to talk about, and where's your attorney? Well, as intervener, what do I need an attorney for? Is this matter not been settled and closed? Are we ready to submit this matter under law and issue an order to that effect? He's just the judge. He seems like he's judge, jury, and executioner. That's when you're in an equity court. You're going to see a lot of legal writings, inequity, or at law, inequity, in law, inequity. Two different worlds. I need to be in law. In, within, surrounded by. If I told you your friends are at the lake, or I tell you your friends are in the lake, two big different statements, huh? If I tell you your kids are in the pool or at the pool, at means near or in the presence of. So an attorney at law, he's near or in the presence of a contract. Wow. He's not an attorney in law. They're never referred to that. Why is an attorney at law? An equity court. A chancery court. Equity. A system of rules and doctrines as in the United States, supplementing common and statute law and superseding such law whenever it proves inadequate for just settlement. Remember that gal, Demas? She's holding that scale up there. She can only weigh the claims. Goes to that poem I repeat in a lot of these things about law. Remember, replace the word contract. Once law was sitting on the bench, and mercy knelt a-weeping. Clear out, he cried, disordered wench, nor come before me creeping. Upon your knees if you appear, 'tis clear you have no standing here. Then justice came. His honor cried, your status. Devil seize you. Amicus curiae, she replied, friend of court, so please you. Begone, he shouted, there's the door. I never saw your face before. When contract sits on the bench, you can forget mercy, justice, and all that. That's a poem from 1840. Gaskalaska Jake, SC. Whew. When you have a contract, ladies and gentlemen, you're a bad mojo. You got it's your court. Can you hold it? A republic, if you can keep it. Ooh, yeah. Surf's up, party's on, your set's in. Can you rise up to the occasion? It's going to be fun. And remember, that judge is rooting for you. He really is. Think about it. All day long, nothing but debtors and slaves come into these guys. Why do you think they used to sleep on the bench? Why not? The decision's mine to do when they get done here. I'm going to sleep. I'm tired. I just got to hear this droning some more. More whining. She don't pay. The kids this. Mom that. The yeah. Whine. I didn't bring enough cheese for this day. You know? You think that judge doesn't perk up when he's got a little fun? A little change in pace? It's the same old debtor slave bringing us right down to anarchy. I got me another one of those sovereigns coming on Thursday. Let me tell you something. The Cincinnati boys were doing real good in their hour and a half Ferretti hearing. The courtroom was packed with suits. They had them all there. IRS agents and attorneys packed. Came for the show. And he said the judge was so nice. He said he lulled you right into smoothness and suckered you. Then he said he got us. Judge was good.
And afterwards, there's money changing hands in the back.
You think that judge didn't invite all those people there? You think these prosecutors, these attorneys, these Irish haven't seen this stuff? They've been there. They know what you're doing. You don't have to explain it. That's fighting. What is this stuff you're talking about? Do I have the capacity to inform you and the public without abandoning my position in the private? Or are you suggesting I can explain something to you, Judge, without giving up my private claim? not going to tell him. He knows exactly what you're doing. The show must go on. Shakespeare told it to you. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their entrances and exits. Each man has his part to play.
Or
Come on. Do you want to come out and play? Yes.
who educates these judges? Like how do?
I'm
they go
aware.
from a lawyer-
I'm aware of 2 judges' school. One in Scottsdale, Arizona. One in Reno.
Okay.
Plus, they probably get tested on the way
I
to.
thought they were appointed. Are they not appointed?
What's that got to do with how do they learn this? You said, I thought.
Oh yes, you're right. So they become lawyers first.
Probably.
Yeah, and then they just go to training center or school to become a
Well,
judge.
they learn enough about what the real game is, and
Okay.
they rise up and they see how their careers go, and somebody appoints them.
Yeah,
These
so I was
guys
thinking-
understand commercial law. This one's real good. Just like chess players.
Oh,
I don't
that's
doubt
the
they're
best.
ranked. You know, chess players are ranked. You know, I'm a 21, a 18, a 70. They got them ranked. I wouldn't doubt those judges. They, human nature's nothing. They got people. They know people. They've been working with billions of people over the millennia. They understand human nature like you can't believe. And these judges, you know, if they're a good judge, do they understand commercial law? I don't believe that all judges, meaning a lot of the magistrates and things, might be as versed in it, but they're getting versed. But those federal judges, count on it. They absolutely understand it. And I don't doubt every one of those state judges do too. You're not going to be a judge if you can't judge. What are we judging? This game is contracts, is jurisdiction. There isn't. What else could it be? If I'm not Gordon when they invite me in, you know, I can't say I'm not him. I can't deny. I got to be civil. Have I not been out sailing the Sea of Commerce with his license and credit cards and utility bills and everything else? I've got a duty. Well, that goes to obligation.
Duties and rights.
I love that word, obligation. Remember the old Westerners used to say, much obliged?
Yeah.
What did that mean?
Yeah.
Kind of, everybody thought it meant kind of like thank you, right? Much
Yeah.
obliged. Come over and help you herd the cattle, much obliged? Hell no! Obliged, obligation. I love this word. Obligation. The best definition I've heard that I like is that which constitutes, and this is really good, that which constitutes constitutes a legal or moral duty and which renders a person liable to coercion or punishment for neglecting it. That which constitutes a legal or moral duty and which renders a person liable to coercion or punishment for neglecting it. Westerner, you got to come over and herd your cattle. And the guy say, much obliged, I'm obligated. That's right. When it's time to herd my cattle, you better have your butt over here. That's right. But obligation. So, what happens when you accept an attorney or a favor? Don't you become obligated? And therefore, that's a legal or moral duty, and it renders you liable to coercion and punishment for neglecting it. That's how they can throw you in for taking something and put you under their deal. You had either a legal or a moral duty to pay for what you took. That's law. That's only right. Yes.
When you accept an attorney, there's an implied contract there, and you're receiving benefits. But if
Why? That's an express contract, baby.
okay,
But yes, you got a contract.
but I mean, you're waiving your rights in a sense because
well,
you're
when
doing
you take
that.
when you take an attorney, yes.
But like if I give somebody a birthday present, that's not an I don't think of that as creating an obligation.
It really doesn't, not in that sense of the word. You're right. I do you a favor, you're not obligated to me. And isn't it interesting that
Right.
the word thank you and then you're welcome? Webster's has a wonderful definition of you're welcome, which is a standard reply for someone saying thank you, which means you're under no obligation for the favor given. God, it's so cool.
Welcome.
Welcome means, yeah, in that context, let me get it to you here. Give you the exact definition. You're under no obligation for the favor given. Let's see how they word it here. You're welcome. You're under no obligation for the favor given. The conventional response to an expression of thanks.
Wow.
Some of my people that have learned that, they say, hey, thanks. And I don't say a word, and they go, I'm obligated. I said, yeah. Yeah, we tease about it. No, I ain't joking either.
Yeah.
That's right. If I don't say you're welcome, I just put you under obligation. You just don't know that. But my friends, that we teach a few things too. It's cute to learn to speak a little bit. Kind of fun to learn words and language. It's not going to be too hard for all of you to do this. It really isn't. It seems a little bit Greek at first.
Everything does.
Everything does, but this isn't like a whole lot more difficult. This isn't like you got to learn scads of stuff in law. You really don't. 4 doors. Don't accept anything free. Don't become obligated. The judges really want you to... Once you get all these little, 5, 10, 15, 20 of these basic principles in your mind, and they're not hard, none of them sounded weird, you really can do it. You'll be able to, just like my sister. That is not a legalese sounding, you owe me $49, knock it off, and the dude ain't worked here for years. It leads me to believe you're committing fraud. That's why with, what did we say on yours? Further attempts to collect on account already agreed as set off, settled, and closed leads me to believe you may be committing fraud. Didn't say they were.
What's the purpose of saying that? Is that
Well, I happen to...
crime?
May be committing fraud, but why don't we look up the word may in Black's Law Dictionary? Woo!
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, what you think may means and what it means in law, we're talking a couple of different things.
I think I understand.
Nasty.
May is synonymous with me.
May. An earlier verb qualifying the meaning of another verb by expressing ability, competency. That's kind of what we think may means. Let's go to some other terms of it, though. Regardless of the instrument, however, whether constitution, statute, deed, contract, or whatever, courts not infrequently instrue may as shall or must, to the end that justice may not be the slave of grammar. However, as a general rule, the word may will not be treated as a word of command unless there is something in context or subject matter of act to indicate that it was used in such sense. In construction of statutes and presumably also in construction of federal rules, word may as opposed to shall is indicative of discretion. However, I use it as shall. Shall incur a penalty. See, you can't be accusing your brother. You got to be a little. Leads me to believe you may be committing fraud. Oof.
Is fraud a term that refers to something that's specifically a crime? Is that
Remember
generally
we said it was?
deception?
To
and-
trick somebody out of something's personal property or rights or something by deception.
But in this context, you're using it to suggest that a crime may have been committed.
Yeah, I paid you, and you're continuing to try and collect on a debt that's already been paid. You know it, and I know it.
So not only am I have a claim against the person, but there could be the 900-pound gorilla, government, if a crime has been committed. If they don't rebut that presumption or something.
If they don't rebut that comment, it stands. Now, the gorilla is on their side. Remember, public policy. So if I win this, I'm not going to run on screaming at the treetops. I don't want everybody doing this. Because all they want to do is just do it to do it. They're not trying to get in harmony with their brother. Do you think if this is successful, she wants to run out and get credit cards, run them up, and blow them off this way? I don't think she intends to do that at all. There's some people that want to do that with their credit cards. Go get another one. Clean my credit up. Go get another card. I'll just do it again. That's an admirable goal. That sounds like you're really being in honor. Where's your heart?
So is the purpose of this to close the account?
I'm closing them off.
This one is to close, but a lot of them I just soon settle.
Settle.
What happens if you just want to pay off the balance and keep the account open?
That's what most of us want to do, and that's what we're working toward, is to get that, to be able to utilize that exemption so we can do just that. That's preferable.
Right.
Yeah, because we want to be able to use a credit card and get around. Can you imagine that if we can get people's heads right and attitude right, you got a credit card, and let's say it's an unlimited card, right? If you're a conservative guy, you love your fellow man and God, how are you going to use that card? Me, I'd use it on all my meals. I'd buy a car every couple, 2-3 years with it. I wouldn't be out buying everybody cars that I could and all those kinds of things. It's not doing them any good, right? But
Some people
what would it
be
do to the
doing
economy? It could kind of like people said, what if you just did away with all the money today? And everybody kept doing what they're doing? Wouldn't everything be just fine? Yeah. But until people are ready to live the law of consecration, and I'm not unsure that we're not being pushed into that direction right now anyway. There's going to be a lot of people that are really geared for having their exemption number and utilizing it. And the government's going to have a list of people that are deserving of it and pass. This is where merit or reward is going to be. So I might one day be able to find that my credit cards are being able to be set off and the payment made and stay open where yours might not. Why? Because somewhere in there, somehow I've been judged responsible to use that and keep people working, right? Because you can't just have everybody working in that one vein producing products. You have a proliferation of products. They pay farmers tens of billions not to grow every year because we'd flood the markets with food and there wouldn't be a stable economy and all sorts of stuff. And of course you got to tax the people so they don't really deserve lower price things, but how else are we going to bring, what if they're actually doing some things? Here's China. Is China now dependent on the United States? Yeah, absolutely.
customers.
We consume their stuff, keep their people working. I'm not so sure that isn't meant to be. And they can then bend China and their human rights into being more democracy and people and this and that. Otherwise, China's got to do what with their people? Like what they do in the 30s, 40s, 50s? Would they kill 30 to 80 million of their countrymen? Numbers are as low as 30 and as high as 80 million. And no idea. Man's inhumanity to man is rather interesting. This is not an easy place to run. So I wouldn't be so quick to condemn this government of anything. 3,000 people dead in the Trade Center. I can see a whole lot of reasons why to do it for the benefit of all. You and I don't like being inconvenienced at the airport, but I'm thinking about all the crazies. These people, what do you mean? They wouldn't do that just to... Yeah, they do. They get depressed and they kill their kids and their wives and commit suicide all the time. What's wrong with these kids that go murder other kids at school because they got picked on? Hell, school, all those little cruel-ass little bastards do a good service. How else you going to learn about people, man? When you're a kid, you're a sponge. You got to learn about these things. What if everybody was a nice guy? And you come out of there as a young adult trusting everybody, thinking they're nice guys. Hand them your paycheck, money on, and you'd be getting stripped and you'd be lost. School, it's really interesting how this whole system has some real good positives to it. I'd rather see us all living in total harmony from cradle to grave. But that isn't what humans do.
History.
A republic, if you can keep it. God, think about Teddy Roosevelt, his comment. We of this mighty Western Republic. A sovereign cannot make excuses for his failures. Can you live with that? You know, I had the wife divorced me when I first went to prison because 9 years and 3 months seemed like forever. And she got conned out of the $30 million, the family fortune, and trusts, and notes, and buildings, and everything else. And I consider 8.10 years and $30 million and a wife a pretty cheap price to get this education. Is it? In my opinion, it is. Why? Proverbs 3:13 through 18. Happy is the man that findeth wisdom, that getteth understanding. But better than the merchandise of silver, and the gain thereof than fine gold. She's more precious than rubies, and all the things thou canst desire are not to be compared unto her. Man, I'm wholeheartedly into that. What care I? This worldly stuff in a big sense. I don't. Wouldn't it be nice if we can all get to that level where we're working to help them out? They got inventions they don't let come out because it would destroy whole industries in the world.
That's right.
Right? We can't have that. We got to. What is government's job? Under Keynesian economics, which hold that full employment and a stable economy, depend on the continued governmental stimulation of investment and spending through the adjustment of interest rates, tax rates, and deficit financing, etc. God, they ought to make the tax code easier. Man, that would unemploy how many tax guys we got and lawyers working on that and all this stuff. What are you going to do with people when they got plenty of stuff? It just takes a few people to grow food today. They got to pay them tens of billions not to grow the stuff.
Or burn it.
And what do people do when they still have time on their hands? Man, they're scamming on their neighbor's wife or husband, or down at the strip joint, or into drugs, or crazy things. Govern yourself, or it will be done for you. Count on it. And it is. Hell, they drive drunk, and they don't even got the good sense not to drive drunk and kill their neighbor. Who thinks they can drive under the influence with any kind of reasonable care and concern for their fellow man? None of those alcoholics can sit there and tell you, yeah, I can. When they're sober, they're not going to know. They know they can't, but yet they continue to do it. Thank goodness for this government. A strong, powerful government. Especially protect us from a bunch of dictators. Because that's what we would be living under, monarchs and dictators. We're all fearful of one world government, right? It's here. Thank goodness. I love it. What is it?
Contract law.
Contract law. Now you're talking. Think about it. All that matters is that we just didn't know the rules. How could we play the game? A sophisticated game like life without actually knowing the rules. Man, now that I know the rules, most of it, I'm just jazzed. I truly love this government. Have respect for them and their stuff. I want them to respect me and my things and my children. That's my child.
How come we've been so misled all these years? They hide all this stuff from us.
They hide it all. Let's look at, do they really hide it all?
Well, in plain sight, and then public school system there, they're
Let me see. John Stuart Mill in 1850, a book called On Liberty. Almost mandatory reading for the longest time in school, right? In it says, anybody sends their children to public schools is a fool. I looked up fool when I read it. It said victim of a trick. 1850, they told you don't do it. Don't send them to public schools. But they'd be like a lot of parents, hey, we don't need to send the kid to school. We need farm workers. Right? They're hurting their kids. Government put in public schools because the parents weren't educating them. Think about it. Go back to them Kentucky hollers and some of those people in Texas and stuff, in the deep areas in the deep South and stuff. And man's inhumanity to man is not rivaled anywhere else on the planet. They didn't do anything to us. We did it all to ourselves. They've been telling us all along. In 1945, the Supreme Court said, this is in Hooven and Allison versus Evatt. They said, this is the last time we're going to define United States. They've done it so many times. The term United States may be used in any one of several senses. It may be merely the name of a sovereign occupying the position analogous to that of other sovereigns in the family of nations. It may designate the territory over which the sovereignty of the United States extends. Or, 3, it may be the collective name of the states which are united by and under the Constitution. Can you define running for me? Dan the Man, can you define running? Well, I'm a painter, so I don't know what you're talking about. Paint running down the wall? Politician running for office? Your nose is running? The athlete is running? The motor's running? My gosh! Context is everything, isn't it? How did it disturb the United States? How confusing is it? Well, so's running. No, it isn't. You're just not used to speaking law and understanding that words have lots of meanings. And context is everything. Wow. And in fact, the term United States is used and defined 31 different ways in the United States codes. It says in this chapter, it'll be defined as Samoa, D.C., and the conterminous 48 states. Over here it might say it's just D.C. and Hawaii. And over here it might say it's Hawaii and Alaska. Oh, then it makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah, because they're saying different things in those different titles. And they relate to different subject matter. But people think that they're trying to trick us. No. Just get tired of trying to teach y'all grammar rules and basics. And we got some cities and counties where we got 50% dropout of high school kids. Dang. Do you think these kids don't know that if they don't finish high school, their life isn't going to be more difficult? But they do. They still drop out in droves. They just can't do what's good for them for their life. You got to be an idiot to think you can drop out of high school at 9th grade and do good in life. Sure, well, Dale Carnegie or Andrew Carnegie did the steel magnet. Well, that's then, not now. And back then, they matriculated to Yale and Harvard at 14 and 13 years old. So you had quite the education even by then. These are different times. It's the best of times. And if you can get the true picture of it, you're going to love this government and the Canadian government. You're going to love the IRS and the CRA. You're going to love this game called contract law because you're going to start getting remedy on all your stuff. Walmart doesn't want to cash a check because I don't feel like giving a Social Security number. That was a nice one. I like that. I got paid good on that one. It took 10 days to collect from them. They understood law real well. That's what I like about Walmart. It took Western Union less than 8 hours to settle up. I like these guys. But don't go in there whining and groveling. Go in there asserting your rights. I had a little deal with Western Union. Some money was transferred to my bank on a Saturday. Sunday it wasn't there. Sunday evening I get on with my guys. I said, you do? He said, yeah, we wired. I said, well, you got the paperwork? He says, yeah. I said, let's get Western Union on the line. So we're on about midnight, Sunday night. And I got him talking to this agent. I said, well, he says, the money is in your bank. I said, well, it doesn't show on the computer. He says, it's there. I said, well, the bank's pretty good about those kinds of things. So I'm a little concerned here. He said, and we're having more conversation. Pretty soon he says, by the way, the agreement says that it could take up to, 5 days. I said, well, when you got paid the fee, this goes back to contract law and goes back to the San Francisco deal, okay? Remember, they got legally married 3.5 years ago, but she thought she was married 11 years ago. I don't care what California law says. No state shall pass any law impairing the obligation of contract. She had a contract 11 years ago. So, I says to Western Union, I said, when we use Western Union, we're presuming that it's wired immediately. Nobody pays you that size of fee to wire on the weekend when I could do 1/8 that fee on Monday and have it Monday morning or that day. I said, so I don't really care what the back of your contract says. And I'll agree that it probably says that. I said, the greatest mode of advertising is word of mouth. And I says, if you think I'm going to say anything good about Western Union after this, I said, I don't know about that. Didn't say I was. I said, what do you think I'm going to say? I said, and on top of that, I made an agreement with your agent. There's an express agreement, it will be wired, just like you told me just now. So I said, I don't doubt you put it in my bank, but I tell you what, my bank, Wells Fargo's either got a big problem or you do. And I don't know which one of you does, but somebody does, and messing with my money is going to be very expensive. Matter of fact, I suggest you might want to call Walmart and ask them what it's like to mess around with my money. Next morning, I called the banker. He said, oh, no, the money came first thing this morning. It was in your account this morning already. I said, God, I love these guys. Yes?
I'm not sure if I heard the story about Walmart. Could you tell us about it?
I bought a cashier's check for $186.40 at a Walmart and near where I was living and working. I went downtown to pay a bill. It was off by 40 cents. So I said, my bad. So I go to the nearest Walmart. Go to the service department. Want to exchange this cashier's check? No problem. $3, no problem. Okay. We need your Social Security number. I says, well, I don't have one. Or we can't cash the check. The Patriot 2 Act, as of 2 weeks ago, the Patriot 2 Act in our store policy won't let us cash the check. I says, are you sure? She says, yep. I says, well, that's a violation of Title 5, 552A, which states in pertinent part 9. And I said, Title 42, 408A8, and 42 U.S.C. Section 1983. And a violation of my God-given unalienable rights. And I consider that worth about 10 grand. What would you like to do? I says, may I speak to your supervisor? Supervisor comes, I give the same offer. May I speak to the manager? Same offer. May I have the number, district manager, and phone number. Now, I call the district manager, talk to your employee, talk to your supervisor, talk to the store manager. Oh, Mr. Hall, I can't believe we have thousands of attorneys. I can't believe they got the law wrong. I says, I appreciate that. And I know that's how you feel, and I don't blame you. And I said, I'm looking forward to an animating contest between thousands of Walmart attorneys and me. Oh, Mr. Hall, we'll have someone call you from legal. I said, that'd be just fine. In the meantime, I bought another check and went back. When I went back across town that day, I just went in and cashed the check at the same Walmart I got it. Guess that store policy is different than that store policy. And, of course, the Patriot 2 Act was just passed a couple weeks ago, back in 2001, right? So, we just got around to implementing it 8 or so years later. It's okay. These things happen. And so 2 days later, I got nothing. So I sent out my hello, how are you? Private notice, international remedy demand. We agreed to a $10,000 penalty. The store employee, and therefore I'd like my 10 grand. If you want to mess me around, it's 50,000 more. 2 days later, I got a call. By the time I sent it, 2 days later, I get a call. Send it certified. 2 days later, I get a call from a George something or other with Walmart, attorney in Bentonville, Arkansas. He says, got your paperwork. We have a nice little chat, introduction, you know, real nice to each other. He's real courteous, friendly as all get out, like all Walmart people are. They're very professional. And he says, I got your paperwork, but I don't know what you want. You got no numbers or anything on it. I know he's looking for an argument. Right?
Yeah.
I want to know whether I'm merit or reward. I said, gee, George, my bad. I thought I'd put it in there. Let me get my copy. Oh, no, oh, here it is. Well, you've made mistakes, haven't you, Mr. Hall? I said, of course I have, George. I'm not going to go to condition. Of course I have. Nothing wrong with answering that question. You bet I have. Well, why are you holding this one against Walmart? I said, is it a mistake if the employee, the supervisor, the store manager, and the district manager all do it? Well, I'm not authorized to settle this. I said, oh, please don't trouble yourself. Let's just let the paperwork take care of it. No, let me call you tomorrow. Calls me the next day. Hi, how you doing? Good. How you doing? I go here. I says, he says, well, what do you want to settle? I says, well, wasn't it in the paperwork? He says, oh, come on. What do you take? I says, are you making me an offer? He says, how about this much? I says, I don't think so, George. He says, well, I can't bid against myself. I says, please don't trouble yourself. Let the paperwork take care of itself. He says, how about this much? I said, if I receive the money forthwith, that means immediately. He says, someone will be in contact with you tomorrow. Next day, no call. Next day, certified mailer with the money in it. 10 days from start to finish. I like those guys. I'm telling you, commercial law is good. I love that warden at TI. I love Walmart. I love these guys. They know commercial. I'm doing one with Farmers Insurance right now. They've been very complimentary about the paperwork. I say, well, obviously you're very, commenting to my client, you're obviously very astute in contract law, blah, 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 blah. I said, these guys are nice soft soap in this one. They're going to pay, too. They're going to pay the claim. Their agent represented there was coverage. There wasn't. He made an honest mistake. Not my problem. I don't care what the policy says. That's not the contract, is it? It's merely a record or memorial of that contract, meaning the agreement. That agent represented my client had coverage, and that's why we gave him the check. I don't care what the record or memorial says. That's not the contract. I'm making a claim, and they know that. Interestingly, the agent got a call and said, we're thinking of censoring you and maybe firing you and fining you $7,000. Interesting, my guy's deductible's $1,000. It's an $8,000 claim. Isn't that interesting? It's all about contracts. You married people, you unmarried, you make agreements, commitments. It's the most beautiful thing. And it's really nothing more than a little 1, 2, 3 step. Now, it's a little more nuances when you try to get into getting it enforced in a public thing here or there, but there's all sorts of ways to enforce it on the private side, and you'll learn how to do this. Don't worry about getting it all. I got to know how to. You'll get some samples from Juanita and us. Here's what we did on this one. Here's what we did on that one. Here's how we filed this. You can do the same thing. Got the warden's attention when I filed it with the UCC division of the Secretary of State's office. It hit his credit report. That's what locked him up. What do you think would happen if you had a large judgment hit your credit report? What do you think is going to happen maybe to some of your credit cards? You think the credit card companies don't consider revoking them now when they see a big judgment? It starts to affect you commercially, doesn't it? You bet it does.
Yeah, I have a little question. Dealing with people and enforcing claims and so on, don't people come up with like limited liability company to protect themselves from any personal liability things? And
go ahead. It's
lawyers have their bar insurance and things. And,
Yeah, that's all great. What's that got to do with my contract?
but you can still make a contract with them as an individual.
Oh, heck yeah. What's that got to do? I had a contract going with the president of Walmart and the store manager and Walmart itself. Why do you think I got a little attention there? Not just Walmart. I'm sure that president said, somebody fix this problem. The guy says to me, 10 grand for 10 minutes of your time, Gordon? I said, what's it cost for the president of Walmart's time? I said, you think for 10 grand I can buy 10, 20 minutes of his time? I don't think so. Write him an offer. See if he'll give you 20 minutes time to talk and visit for 10 grand. I don't think so. He's a busy man. Can't take his time with some lunatic who wants to buy 20 minutes for 10 grand. Besides, he gets paid more than that. In all likelihood with stock and options and running a $400 billion a year sales company. The time to mess with people like us. Or anybody else that is in business. He's busy.
Hey, what about leaning up these judges? That doesn't sound like a good thing to me.
Well, I would never lean a judge.
So, I mean, this-
That's a dishonor in my opinion.
Yeah.
What's the judge done to you? Where was your claim? Are you a lunatic? Lean that guy up, see what happens to you. The prosecutor, what do he do to you? Your enemy's your remedy. Why would you lean up people that are there to help you? A lot of these patriots saying, lean them up, get their bond, do what?
Yeah.
They didn't do anything to you.
Doing the job.
They're doing their job. That's right. And what's their job? Help you. They're either going to help you learn the hard way, or they're going to help you learn the easy way.
What happens if a judge actually breaks law? And
Breaks the
denies-
contract?
Yeah, denies your...
See, I wonder what the appellate court would do with a show cause order why he shouldn't be removed from office.
So you would do a show cause order, not a lien.
Absolutely. What do you think? You think he wants a show cause order put in to the appellate court? Where do you think he wants to go from that judgeship? He wants to go up, doesn't he? He doesn't need that mark on his career. I'm going to lien his bond. Tell me one guy that collected money on some judge's bond. I ain't heard of one yet. Not that it couldn't be done. But where did he violate? You could get him to agree on the private side because he sort of has to. Boy, you've been dishonorable. You're just not doing it for the right thing. That's my opinion. Most judges are great guys and gals. They know what they're doing. They know their job. Why would they deny you your contract? Their job's to sit there, and if they can trick you, they're going to do it. They don't want any riffraff through. The only reason that you should lean a judge is there isn't one. He won't be a judge much longer. If in fact he violates the contract, but I don't see him ever doing it. They're so good at what they do. They really enjoy the game.
Well, guys have told me too, when a judge is not honoring the sovereign, the court sheriffs run up to them and say, "Here's my card, and I'm here to protect you."
I don't know. I mean, there's all sorts of strange stories I've heard.
Heard that a few
And I've heard some really cool stories. But I don't think a judge, I just can't picture certainly no federal judge, and I doubt a state judge either. I've been in with this Arizona state judge over here with John Stewart, and this guy's sharp as a tack. Just sharp. I love the last one. I'm just a facilitator. God, he's good.
So do you recommend writing a security agreement and leaning your own straw man to gain control of it?
Nah.
No,
What do I care? What's it got to do with anything?
You do it with every single individual.
No matter what you did with that, ain't going to be anything. Remember, it's assert your rights.
Right.
Here's my security agreement. I'm this and that. Hey, I'm the secure party creditor. Well, on what basis? Because I say I am.
Right.
I like asserting my rights.
But you do it based on your acting.
That's
Or,
right.